Now let me introduce myself to you for one last time. My name is Nawar. I am a radio TV student studying at Lebanese International University. I'm a beneficiary of a scholarship provided for by Spark and EU Madad Trust Funder. I came from Syria in 2013, and now I'm in my last year here. So that's it about me right now. And please, now I would like to welcome a very special person to the stage, which is here with us. We're delighted that you made time out of your busy schedule to meet with all of us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage European Commissioners for European Neighborhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiations, Dr. Johannes Hahn.
Okay, good. Madam Minister, Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to have this opportunity during my stay here in Beirut and to meet so many representatives of authorities and higher education institutions of not only Lebanon but also Jordan, Iraq, Turkey, and of Syrian universities. And therefore, and finally, I would like to reach out in particular to our future, to our students, and I would like to welcome in particular the students here. And once again, it's not only a pleasure, but I'm really proud to be with you. I have to say, as a former minister for universities, I'm always keen to be back, and it's quasi a kind of coming home if I'm at the university, but I hope nobody, because this is usually the case, is throwing a cake at me, because this is a minister without getting a cake into the face. University minister is not a real minister. So, but I didn't make this experience, and I don't know if it's a particular cultural behavior in my country or in some of the European countries. Anyhow, I'm more than pleased to be here tonight, this afternoon with you, and to sit in front of so many young women and men who present finally millions of dreams and stories of efforts of their generation. And this is exactly what brings us together today. We are here because there's a whole generation of Syrian youth whose dreams are at risk of being shattered. And I'm good to see that things can be different. This region is, of course, witnessing one of its most profound crises, with the conflict in Syria bringing about a humanitarian situation of such scale that it is sending shockwaves across the region and beyond. The European Union is responding to the needs of both refugees from Syria and, of course, the Lebanese themselves. We are putting every effort to support Lebanon, which is hosting the highest number of refugees per capita in the world. The whole world has been impressed by the generosity and hospitality of Lebanese people faced with this situation. The European Union and its member states mobilized huge amounts of humanitarian and development assistance since 2012. This support goes to Syrians in the country, as well as to refugees and, of course, very important, host communities in neighboring countries, including Lebanon. The focus is, of course, on alleviating the pressure on infrastructure and creating economic growth, on Lebanon's stability and social cohesion, but also on strengthening the resilience of refugees. Our support has enabled families and farmers up and down the country to access clean running water, nurses to provide essential medication, and most importantly, thousands and thousands of children to go to school. If there's anything that can bring a sense of hope to an otherwise bleak situation, it's certainly education. Education gives youth the tool to change their negative reality and transform it into positive prospects. With higher education, youth can dream even bigger. Higher education in this particular region and in the world is seeing considerable and very fast change. Despite positive cooperation trends, it's also becoming increasingly competitive. Therefore, Lebanese universities, as those of other countries, face now more than ever the need for improving quality and research. They also require further internationalization, not only by sending staff and students abroad, but also by hosting more foreign academics and staff and being part of more and more diverse international networks. Since 2011, the breakdown of the education system in Syria has not only disrupted the academic paths of Syrian students, academics, and scholars, decreasing dramatically the number of Syrian students in higher education institutions, but also putting strain on Jordanian, Iraqi, Lebanese, and Turkish universities with refugees and internally displaced people. Young people need hope, they need opportunities for excellent education and training. They need to be able to feel self-confident and committed. Societies need engaged and visionary people, active in their communities to help develop the social fabric and economic tissue. Access to higher education meets these needs. It helps reinstate a sense of stability, confidence, and most importantly, it provides hope and prospects. Higher education has therefore been and will remain a key sector for assistance of the European Union. It's also reflected in our commitments at the London Syrian Conference. The European Union has deployed several initiatives to support universities and higher education students, among them the SPARK project. In partnership with SPARK, the EU is helping to improve access to quality, further and higher education opportunities. Concretely, we are financing scholarships, language, and even more and more important, vocational trainings amongst other interventions. The EU's Regional Trust Fund, in response to the Syrian crisis, has devoted nearly 59 million euro almost exclusively for supporting opportunities to access higher education. This support has generated around 3,900 full scholarships, 5,700 language courses, and over 40,000 counseling sessions. Girls and women represent an important number of the beneficiaries of these projects. This comes on top of our traditional support through Erasmus+. To strengthen the country's competitiveness, education and skills development are key, but they need to be complemented by other efforts. Job creation plays an essential role. You stressed during this conference the importance of higher education curricula to include a lifelong learning approach and more practice-oriented methodologies with bridges for students to access real professional life in enterprises and organizations. You also identified entrepreneurship and startups as innovative ways to generate employment. I welcome all these discussions and proposals. I sincerely believe that a combination of these elements can help in the long term to address some of the main challenges we all face. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the American University of Beirut and in particular President Khoury for kindly hosting this conference and SPARK for organizing this event. Speaking at the oldest university of Lebanon, established in 1866, recalls the fact that Lebanon has been amongst the pioneers of modern university education in the region. It also reminds us of the long-standing history of education, innovation, and science in the Middle East. I would like to reassure you that the European Union is committed to offer financial and political support to the young generation and to higher education institutions in the Eastern and Southern Mediterranean, for they are the agents of change in the quest for a more prosperous area and a peaceful region, and I would include into all these thanks also your minister, who is doing a great job, and we count on him. And it's always a pleasure not only to meet you, but more importantly, to work together with you, because we are pulling at the same string, and this is what finally counts, no matter if we are at the southern or the northern part of the Mediterranean. We are belonging to the same basin, to the same culture, and this is what counts. So many thanks for all you have done and what you will do in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Han, thank you for your that enlightening speech. In light of the Commissioner's comments on the challenges facing Lebanon's higher education institutes, please all now welcome our esteemed guest, His Excellency, the Lebanese Minister of Education and Higher Education, Mr. Marwan Hamade.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to address the students at the American University of Beirut, and in particular at the Issam Faris Institute, headed by a very close friend, Dr. Tariq Mitri. I want to thank you, Commissioner Han, for giving us the opportunity of a visit here and of addressing a challenge that is maybe one of the major challenges. I will skip a classical official speech in Arabic to present to our public the real challenges we are meeting actually with the higher education. When you call this conference Bridging the Gap, you chose the right word. And I thank Spark, thank you all, for picking up this word. I am in charge of a sector which addresses mostly the youngs. We have actually 250,000 Syrian children in formal education in public schools. We have 55,000 in non-formal education. This is where ourselves and the NGOs and UNICEF and UNHCR go and reach them in their communities, in their camps, in the villages they reside to. And we have something like the same number in private schools, some financed by some brother countries, some by funds and NGOs from abroad. The real problem is the gap after the secondary school. We have now increasing numbers, أعداد إضافية في التعليم الثانوي، لأنه تطور التعليم، تعليم الإخوة السوريين عم بيوصل من يعني الحضانة إلى الابتدائي إلى الثانوي إلى التكميلي إلى الثانوي، وفي نجاحات باهرة في الثانوي, very good results in secondary education, but the gap is there in higher education. Why? Because it poses, as I was telling you in our private meeting, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity, before we go to Brussels next month, the commissioner here for neighborhood, I would say, very close to these problems when I was at the Ministry of Economy, and I succeeded Minister Basil Fleihan, who had signed with the European Union the cooperation agreement. I can tell you a few things. One, we have increasing number of children born in Lebanon coming into the primary schools. في 25,000 ل 30,000 تلميذ سوري من أطفال سوريين عم بيفوتوا هلا على المدارس الابتدائية بدءا بالحضانة. بالإضافة إلى ذلك, I will add to that, we have a number of people starting to come from the Ghouta into Lebanon. It's not a big number yet, but we have the feeling, عنا انطباع وبعض الدلائل أنه ما يجري من محنة في الغوطة سيؤدي إلى تهجير جديد باتجاه أقرب حدود لمحيط دمشق وهي الحدود اللبنانية. كل ذلك طبعا مشكلة في التعليم الرسمي الابتدائي والثانوي والتكميل. أما التعليم الجامعي فمشاكله أكبر. We have bigger problems, Commissioner, in higher education. We have beautiful initiatives like the EU program, MADAD, the Erasmus program, Spark initiatives, and other groups, including UNESCO, taking care of this sector. But yet, the Lebanese university, who was receiving more Syrian students, has its own problems and lots of strains on its budget, and some political strains also to accept Syrian students. At the time, there was a big exchange between Lebanese universities and Syrian universities, but these were more normal times. Now things have totally changed. Then the Lebanese society, and here I must be frank with you, especially that I have no complex towards that because I'm a big supporter of the Syrian revolution from its start. But I am a realistic person, and I know that in Lebanon, with part of the graduates looking for emigration because they don't find opportunity jobs, there is some reluctance to facilitate the accession into higher education for the Syrian students, because they consider them as potential competitors at a later stage. And this creates, sometimes some political groups or some groups use it as a topic for electoral or other purposes. I want to keep this away from us. What I want to say here, that in Brussels next month, I will start addressing this issue, which is the issue of higher education, without blowing up the marmite, without having too many repercussions on the Lebanese political situation. But I think we have to address this because from my statistics, in the refugee community, if you ask a displaced person, in the present conditions, you want to go back to Syria? If it's an educated person, I say at the higher, he tell you no, I don't see any horizon. If you ask him, you want to stay in Lebanon? He would say no, I see it's creating too many problems with the environment. And the hidden dream could be emigration. We don't want emigration. My dream as Minister of Education and Higher Education is to give back to Syria, to a new Syria, a real generation of educated persons, whether they are children, they are in teens, or they have graduated, that would cooperate not only in reconstructing Syria. It's not only a matter of just having more buildings or rebuilding the schools and the hospitals and the cities, but rebuilding the Syrian spirit, the conviviality of Syria, and a country that was always at the heart of the Arab world and was always a sort of vanguard for the Arab idea. So this is my hope, this is my dream. I will address this this file, Commissioner Hahn, with the same interest you have shown us today. I thank the AUB for hosting this meeting, and I hope that we'll have continuous contact with the European Union, but also some Arab states who could help us in this. And I have heard today some new initiatives. I was presiding over a meeting of all the donors' ambassadors 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, and I'm trying to get new ideas for bridging the gap, as the title of the conference, for the little kids and for the graduates. Thank you.